just incredible. Just absolutely. And I want to get right to the information here, sir, that we have had the opportunity to touch on a little bit. So I have this, awesome unfair advantage as I do with all of our guests. But I was really thinking about this in terms of three things. We have the pre-COVID time frame, we have the COVID time frame, and then entering what we could look at as post-COVID, I guess, for lack of a better term. But when we were in that room, myself and Carmen and Steve Schutte, when we were in that room and we were listening to all of the heroism that goes on a day-to-day basis, just regular, and then to hear you and your colleagues that are from law enforcement and EMS and emergency services, that type of thing, really break it down for us and actually say, no, Eddie, kind of part of the job. That just kind of blew me away. Paul and Donna, I know you all felt the same way. We would have just given awards to everyone. And you all were there to kind of put it more in perspective for us. Sir, on the pre-COVID side, we were using the term normalcy, but I believe that's now a relative term, right? From a first responder's perspective, what do you consider to be normalcy, prior to when we ran into this horrific thing called COVID-19?
Well, chamber members, what I would have to say is in my career, I've been doing this in one place or another since 1971. And when I came to work as a career firefighter, it was okay just to be a really good small line firefighter, a high performance EMT or paramedic. And that's kind of what we did. And I remember, I think when this hit me first was post 9/11. I attended a briefing from a guy that had been dealing with terrorism from the United Kingdom, British MI6, for over 25 years. And it struck me then that normal was never going to be normal again. That if somebody would have told me in 1971 I had to know the difference between a Cat 2 and a Cat 5 hurricane, that I had to understand all the nuances of wind and water, active shooters, counterterrorism, violence against each other. I don't know that I had the maturity or the intellect to look that far forward. And so what's happened is, and Chief Kiefer here at the HPD says it best, we have to be force multipliers for each other. We don't have the resources in any of our fire departments. The police and law enforcement folks don't have any of the resources necessary to handle these big campaign events on their own. So we have to find, not unlike the chamber, where all these great businesses come together and collaborate and find ways to improve our community. We have to do the same thing in public safety. Every time we think we've conquered something, whether it's post 9/11, whether it's wind and water, whether it's fires, whether it's whatever is coming our way, then there's the next thing that we never heard of. COVID come out of the blue for public safety, just like it did for all of our citizens in this great nation. And regrettably, we're at a time in our country where it's very difficult to have a conversation about COVID without drifting to one political extreme or the other. And I know you all have experienced that. We experience it almost every day on the street. And more importantly, we have a smaller divide even internally to our public safety organizations, where people line up on one side of that or the other. This isn't real. It's not factual. I don't need to be vaccinated, all those things. So, post COVID-19 is a different world.
It's a different world, you bet. And, you mentioned violence towards each other. You mentioned the political sides and opinions and so forth. And it's interesting that you touched on that, Chief, because one of the things that I thought was there was nothing more horrific than the COVID-19 itself and its impact on families. I remember seeing headlines that it was bad enough that a person would lose their life prematurely as a result. And we couldn't even really put our finger on it yet as to how it was being transmitted. It was just darn scary at some point. But then you realize that there were even multiple family members. I remember seeing those kind of headlines. I'm sure you all saw the same. But then I also thought about how we were treating each other during that time frame, and that really impacted me. I don't know about anyone else here in the room, but when I would see folks in line or arguments and what have you in stores and so forth, it really hurt, because I guess what we were really coming down to was more being opinionated again, in just my humble opinion, than being aware of how we needed to take care of each other. You just said it was Chief Kuiper's quote, I believe, that we have to be force multipliers. So in other words, we had to, be able to take care of ourselves in this sense, right? And really look after each other. I didn't see that happening, or let's just say I saw too many instances where it wasn't happening. And I guess I wondered, from a first responder's perspective, once again, how did you all deal with that, Chief, when you had to talk to your team as going out, and some folks maybe wanting to adhere, some not wanting to adhere? You're trying to do your job to the best of your ability. And of course, you're at risk. So nothing ever changed for you. You, in fact, it changed and went even more at risk than you already do, if that's even possible, because now you were at risk of infection from something we didn't even know how it was being transmitted. How did you convey that to your team? In other words, to be able to be safe, to remain professional in spite of all of that? And do you have any instances that you specifically can talk to about that?
I can, Eddie. The first thing I did was assemble my command staff, which consists of 3 battalion chiefs and 6 captains here in the HFD. And we prepared a briefing for our entire department that explained really what a pandemic was. Because believe it or not, many folks didn't know the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic. And we actually assigned work out is, look, we're not just going to live off of Facebook or the most recent post about what's going on either politically or scientifically. And, we had people, and we're still doing it. It's very important. I spent last night before I fell asleep looking at a recent study from Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Research Institute about why some people get so deathly sick from COVID and other people with very similar DNA do not. Now, this is all brand new stuff, so there's a lot of raised eyebrows. But what we did was set out and prepared policies. Our biggest risk was, in order to serve the community that we're sworn to protect, I have to field 16 providers every single day, 24/7, 365. We do that with 77 people. That sounds like not a lot. It is not. You still have to provide people vacation days and leave and all those other things. And coming from the military, you fully understand that.
Absolutely.
Nonetheless, our biggest risk was collapse of any portion of that infrastructure. Remember that when this thing started, if somebody reported to work and said, hey, I'm having symptoms, or hey, my wife was exposed at hospital X or nursing home Y, we had to quarantine them for 14 days, and they were not allowed to work. So the first thing we did was prepare a policy that said we're a 3-shift or 3 platoon system, A, B, and C, 24 on, 48 off. So we developed a policy that said, look, if we have to, we're going to collapse from 3 shifts into 2, and you're going to be 12 on, 12 off. And we're going to do that until we crawl out of whatever emergency we're in. Now, in the course of about the first 7 months, we actually had about 49 people reported to have been exposed and go into some level of quarantine. So God bless Earl Stoner and his staff at the Washington County Health Department. We made a decision early on and said, look, 100% of the cases, we are going to do the contact tracing as asked by the health department. We're going to refer them to Dr. Juvera and Earl Stoner at the health department, and we are going to follow their direction, however easy or hard it is, to either quarantine or not quarantine our staff. And that has turned out to work out very well for the HFD. We minimized the amount of quarantines we had. And then we took what I would consider to be extraordinary efforts to protect our people with respiratory protection, not only face masks, but two additional levels of respiratory protection when they're working cardiac arrest patients, when they are out on the street and not really known, whether someone has COVID or not. We treated everybody as if they were COVID positive. We had to, or we were going to lose our workforce.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been successful for us. We still are doing that. I just issued revised direction yesterday. If you're inoculated, you can drop some of the requirements in the house here for these face masks, but on the street, we just have to treat everybody as if they're not inoculated because we're on the honor system. And that's the big change, I think, in terms of what's next. When we encounter people, hey, have you been inoculated? Yes. We just have to do that with a little bit of extra caution, I think, particularly with some of the clients we deal with.
Absolutely. And sir, what about the families that, of course, your team represented, right? Because it went so much deeper than just everyone that was, on the shift, if you will, and the infrastructure that you talk about. How did you convey that, beyond them and make sure to ensure their families of their safety as well?
Well, we certainly encourage everybody to do the same things we were doing at work. Believe it or not, we bought commercial paint guns, battery operated paint guns, to help spray surfaces in our fire truck seats, seat belts, dashes, tables, those kind of things. We are still following those cleaning practices today. If you recall, there was great concern not only about shared air, which my own personal opinion, and I have no scientific evidence to back this, is that the shared air is how we were spreading this thing more so than surface touches. I think maybe that was a little bit exaggerated, but like everybody else, if I had to wipe one more doorknob in my house with a Clorox wipe or Lysol or every surface we touched, and knock on wood, we were very successful in not spreading that. And just a little bit of personal story. Paul knows this. My wife was diagnosed with a second type of cancer right in the middle of this thing, and she had 40 years of service in the hospital before she retired, and she was scared to death to leave the house. Wouldn't go grocery shopping, wouldn't do anything. And so, like many families, we were dealing with all that. And then it kind of really struck home for us between my wife and myself to date, since COVID started, we know 14 people that not only gotten sick, but have passed away as a result of COVID, or COVID helped them along the way there. So for us, it was very real from day one. We had the best advice from the health department here, and a lot of people just continue to resist that. I'm sick of this mask. I'm just done with it. I get it, but we are still exercising great caution as we interact with the public, and without being insulting and without being personally attacking people. That there's 100 good reasons why a lot of people don't want to be inoculated, and it's a personal choice. The city's never mandated that. There are nursing homes and hospitals and other public health agencies that are mandating those vaccines. I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. There's some balance there, I think, but we just can't ignore the problem. I suppose it's possible for another outbreak if you look around the globe, what's going on.
And all the more reason why these things have to be taken so seriously, and you really can't take your foot off the gas, because like you said in the beginning, there's no such thing as going back.
That's right.
We can certainly go forward, but you just can't go back. And I think about our seniors, especially as well, that you talked about just simply being just scared to go out and what have you. And there was a lot of depression those kind of things that set in. And that's why I appreciate so much that you talked a little bit about that. Beyond this, we as the public, the general public, we see ourselves, and then of course we see the men and women in uniform that are tasked with helping us. But I think we tend to forget that you're the general public too, that you have families as well, right? That you do take that uniform off at some point of the day. You don't maybe take it off mentally, but you do take it off. You do have families and those same responsibilities everyone else has. So everything also applies across the board. And sir, I'll wrap up with just basically asking you this, if you will. How do we, at this point, as the general public, maybe because we can hopefully see you in a different light now and recognize who we're in the room with every time we see you driving by or just walking by in uniform, or maybe just having a meal. We happen to be in the same restaurant and so forth, and to see you there able to exhale and have a meal. How can we help our first responders? In other words, what can we do to help you all be better in your day to day? Is there a such thing as something we can do as a general public when you all are out doing what you're doing to be able to help you do what you do even better?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's a complex question. So, what I try to share with everyone is, listen, we're all part of this thing called the human race, and what we need when we're working through these complex, really difficult problems, we just need to row the boat in the same direction. So, I guess the first answer, Eddie, would be, let's be transparent about what's going on. If a provider comes to your home, to your place of business on the street and says, are you inoculated? Just be honest about it. Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
am. No, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to relax a little bit in terms of precautions if they are inoculated. You mentioned the senior population and the fear that they have. You're exactly right. Many of these people are not alone, but in some cases they are alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really difficult position for them to be in. They've heard so many contradictory versions of what this is going to be, what it isn't going to be. So our interest is providing the best care and help we can for these
Mm-hmm.
people in whatever environment they're in. That's always been the role of public safety. We don't discriminate based on income levels, race, any of those other things. We're just there to serve,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a term and condition that comes with the job, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're in EMS, whether you're fire protection, and our folks take great pride in that. So anything that the public can do to facilitate that, and then this is going to sound a little strange, but I tell everybody, don't catch the disease. And I don't mean COVID. I mean this toxicity that is just rampant in our society right now, where everybody wants to confront the next person,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's their relative, neighbor, somebody that has a different opinion about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take care of business that's going on right now. If somebody's having chest pain, if somebody's house is on fire, whatever, help us take care of business. And
Mm-hmm.
but we will do that.
Outstanding. Well, you know, service to many leads to greatness. That's for sure. And this has been an absolute great interview and enlightening interview, I think, for myself, certainly, and everyone else here in the room. And I'm so glad that it'll actually be put up by Brianna for others to see that weren't able to make it this morning, because I was excited when you said, well, sure, Eddie. And I just want you all to know this also as well. When I asked Chief Lohr, if he would be available, if he could squeeze me in his schedule, would he consider having coffee with me? He didn't hesitate. It was a matter of where and when. If I'm not mistaken, I think you even chose the place, Chief.
May have.
I think you did. I mean, didn't even hesitate. I just thought that was awesome. And I share that because, a lot of times when we're in a relatively small town, I'm from Philadelphia, so a little bit difference between populations from there and here. And I've always heard in different places where people, I just hate small towns because, everybody knows everybody and this, that, and so forth. Well, you know, if you're putting your best foot forward, I think you'd want others to be able to know that. And if you're able to help and touch that many more people, I think you'd want others to know that. But something about the small town that the big towns can't really duplicate is just that ability. How many in some big towns would you be able to just make a phone call, speak directly to your chief of that fire department in that municipality, and he or she say, yeah, sure, not a problem. Let's just sit down and have coffee just like that, and be able to sit and visit and get to know just each other just a little bit more in that sense. I challenge you to try to find that and just recognize and understand what a privilege it is for us to be able to do this and have Chief Lohr here, and representative, of course, as humble as he is, of all of the men and women that we don't see standing right behind him, because that's exactly who he is and who he represents. And so again, sir, we say thank you so very much for your leadership and your friendship as we go forward here, and any and all that we can continue to do. Any advice for us as we see any of your men and women out there just cruising back and forth, or waiting to be able to help us? I know myself, I like to go out of my way to just say thank you. You're not always in uniform and so forth, but I know it always brings a smile and a warm and a firm handshake back from the person on the other side. Sir, any advice that you can give us to be able to pass that feeling along, to not catch the disease?
I think what you just said, Eddie, is the best thing that the public can do. At any given time, you can talk about whether school teachers or public safety providers or anybody else aren't enough for what they do. Many in our community are volunteers, and they do a great job. They've thrown themselves into the middle of this COVID pandemic at great risk to themselves and their families for no compensation. But that thank you, that heartfelt eye to eye, means more than I think even they would admit. When the citizens acknowledge good work, that is a great thing in our business, and it just keeps you coming back for more.
Outstanding. You bet. Well, count on more of it happening. And I know certainly starting from this room right here. Listen, I want to ask everyone, first of all, unmute yourselves. If you want to go ahead and put the reaction and some claps, if you want to clap out loud, if you want to just acknowledge and say thank you to Chief Lohr for his time here. But I want to open it up. And Chief, I hope you have just a few more minutes as we round out. As I've always said, this is the fastest hour in the East, y'all. But, if you have comments also as well, please go right ahead and chime in with something that you would like to share and be able to speak to Chief Lohr. Go right ahead.
Well, kudos. I say you did a really good job, Chief Lohr, and we thank you so much. So I appreciate all your comments. I think it was good. I took a lot of notes. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Paul missed out, didn't he? He left early. Absolutely. Well, I see many of you all you're unmuted. You know what? I'll just go ahead and make it a little simpler. Josh, I know it sounds like you look like you may have a take here, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always, I don't know that any of us can really voice the level of appreciation that we have for law enforcement. So Chief Lohr, I appreciate your time this morning. I know it's precious, and I'm sure many people demand that, but appreciate you giving us a couple minutes, just a little bit of an insight as to what you and your team have been dealing with. And, my brother spent 10 years in law enforcement, so I was looking forward to this conversation. And, even not just law enforcement, but veterans, any of those folks, if you go out of your way just to say thank you, buy them a meal, something that's super simple, it really goes a long way. So I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Feel free, Tracy, go right ahead. Feel free to chime in, sir.
No, I just wanted to thank him for all you do. I mean, that's a hard job. And we've been through a long 18 months, and we're starting to get back to work, and I'm excited to be able to do that and be part of Hagerstown again, because I've been sticking in my home here for about 18 months, so it's pretty rough.
Mhm. Yes, indeed.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for all you. Yeah.
That's very real when you say that. I've been in my home, pretty much for 18 months. That's very real. There's an awful lot of people that can say that. And let me ask you this, just on maybe on a lighter note, Chief. We know of all of the different things that you go through now regularly on the job. Tell us what you do to relax.
Well, next week I'm going to spend 3 days down on the Eastern Shore. I have a little bit of propensity. We don't own anything down there, but I'll occasionally try to drown a golf ball or two. I'm not very good at that. My athletic ability is very limited. Just wasn't built for that stuff. But I like to get out of the bay and drop a line in the water. My wife and I are going to be grandparents in about 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
Thought that would never happen. So we're excited, very excited about that. And as Donna mentioned, my son just acquired a pit bull. We are dog lovers. And we lost the dog of a lifetime about 1.5 years ago. And so we finally got a puppy back in the house, and we're having fun with that. But, so my whole life doesn't revolve around a red light. My wife will probably disagree with that, but we find ways to relax, and then we have some travel in our future. If this COVID thing ever relaxes to the point where we feel absolutely confident that we're not going to catch this virus as seniors and put ourselves at great risk. We both have a couple underlying medical conditions, and it's one of the other things I told the staff here is, what do you think about the inoculation? I said, from my view, and it's a personal view, I'm more afraid of the virus than I am of the side effects from any inoculation I could receive. Mm-hmm. And I don't know any other way to put it. That just the decision point that my wife and I got to, one of my children got to, but my daughter, she will not get a vaccine. She just won't. She has a different view about it. And I guess that's part of that human condition we talk about is adults make adult decisions, and those decisions have consequences, good or bad sometimes. I'm not aware of anybody in our department or in my circle of contacts that have had other than a sore arm from the inoculation. I'm just not aware of any other side effects. So for whatever that means to the group that's listening today.
Well, very well said. And that reminds me as well, when it comes to Mrs. Lohr, and then of course, all of the spouses of the men and women who served in your capacity as well, they serve too.
Absolutely.
Right. And so we want to make sure we thank them because and not only do they serve too, but they've got to be the most humble group because you'll never hear that. You'll never hear anyone.
Please pick up part 1 regarding a water line at McCleary Hills.
See, there it goes, right there it goes, right there. Right. You'll just never hear them say anything accordingly. So you please thank Mrs. Lohr for us also as well.
I certainly will.
For her serving, and I won't say for putting up with you. I just mean for serving and what have you, right? Just
you'd be correct.
Would I be
you'd
correct?
Be correct.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Anyone else? Come on and chime in with us.
Yes.
So Eddie,
sorry about that. Okay, Chief, it's great to have you as a neighbor and a friend, but even more importantly, your commitment to our community and your fantastic service. So thanks from a neighbor and friend.
Awesome.
Bob, thank you very much. That means a great deal.
so from a firefighter's wife's perspective,
Yes.
and from somebody who had COVID, 2 things. One, what people don't realize is, this is Hagerstown. So people don't think, this isn't DC, this isn't Baltimore. But every time they go on a call, you worry. Like, the beginning of this year, Chief, with the fire downtown, where it was a 3 fatality fire, I believe.
In the West End, yes.
Yeah, that's not just a a little thing. You know, Hagerstown may be small, but that fire was huge and people lost their lives. And it's very easy for somebody, you know, running into that building, being on the outside. So you worry the entire time. Every time there's a call, and you know that your husband and his friends, because it is a family. So it's not just your husband, it's his partner, it's everybody else that you know that you've you know taken in as part of your family, you worry about it. But then on the other side of that, you're so proud of the fact that they do what they do. So, you know, when Mitchell and I first got together, you know, I was telling everybody, oh, he's a firefighter. He was like, will you shut up? And I was like, why? I'm proud of that. But they're not. I mean, they're proud of it, but they're not arrogant about it. They're very humble. So it is amazing. And they are amazing people and they do amazing things. So on the other comment with COVID, it is absolutely a choice whether people get their shots, but I can promise you, it is not the flu. And the side effects from a shot versus having COVID, there is no comparison. So I was down for 3 weeks. I didn't have any breathing problems, which is my biggest fear because I'm a smoker. But everything else that I had was something that I had never felt before. And I am still, so that was in January, and I am still to this day dealing with the effects of COVID. So just my perspective, and I don't say anything to anybody about whether they get the shot or they don't. But if you're on the fence, get it. I
Yeah.
promise you, you do not want to get COVID.
Yeah, great perspective. Great perspective. You know, and I was just going to say, I think it's so well said by the chief himself. He said, "Don't catch the disease." And there's so many things that I saw that were just complicated what was already complicated enough. You know, what we're dealing with and what have you, and then we can't even be civil. Um, you know, agree to disagree, but the lack of civility amongst us is what was very troubling, at the very least to see. And that's why I wanted to ask that, to see how it carried over into the professionalism that had to be had. And Chief, one thing I kind of heard was, you know, give us a break. Let us do our job. Let us do what we came to do. Leave all of that other stuff over there. We want to keep the thing, and come here and do the best we can for you in your particular situation. And you don't get a call and don't call Chief Lohr and his folks over for a political opinion, do you? That's not what's going to bring them over to your home. So with that, anyone else want to chime in? Leslie, I know you haven't had an opportunity yet.
Yeah, no, Chief Laura, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do. And I can get emotional about it because I live in Ivesville, so I'm in Frederick County. But my daughter, when she lived here, she was actually a first responder. And now that she's married and lives down in South Carolina, she's also a dispatcher. So I still consider her a first responder. So
Absolutely.
from that perspective, you know, I hear things from her of what's going on, you know, even down there where she says, you know, I don't understand down there. They're treating COVID as though it's no big deal. Everything is like wide open. And she's like, I don't understand that. She says, I still wear my mask because I have a little boy and I have a husband. And, you know, she's encountered a lot of the, shall we say, disrespect, you know, for when you know, maybe someone is a senior and they don't feel comfortable having someone, you know, just come up, give them a hug, you know, or try to shake their hand. And I mean, we encountered that recently too, because we were out somewhere and a person that we've known for quite a while, he just came right up without, to me, without being sensitive or transparent. He didn't ask, hey, do you mind? Can I shake your hand? I was just out of the country. You know, do you want to bump arms or do you want me to just stand way back? He never asked. And that bothered me because, again, I think it's still about being transparent and respectful, you know, of
Absolutely.
you guys, especially because you are more, um, you're out there on the front lines. And for that, we just thank you so, so much, because I think there's a lot of things that we don't realize is going on. You know, I remember when COVID first hit, um, I was at a Sam's Club and I was shopping and I saw this lady and she wasn't a senior, but she was getting close. And she's trying to load something onto her cart, and all of a sudden the cart started taking off. And just without even thinking, I just said, "Oh, well, let me help you with that." Whoa, it was like she nailed me against the wall because she was so, uh, she voiced her opinion real quick and said, "No, stay away from me." And I was like, and so Eddie, I can relate to that. That
Yes.
really hurt because I wasn't trying to hurt her or make her think that I was going to infect her, you know, I was
Mhm.
just wanting to help. And I think you are absolutely right, Chief Lore, that we should not catch the disease. That if we see one of you all in uniform, we need to make that that we need to reach out. We need to say thank you so much for what you're doing because again, you guys are on the
Mhm.
front line. So
Absolutely.
and I think there were just so many points that I wrote down here. And again, you know, a person who is being great in our society, in our area, needs to be recognized and needs to be prayed for on a more regular
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
Thank you
How
so much.
about that? So well said. It needs to be prayed for. I love that. I remember when I was reading one of the narratives for Meredith's Health, and that was one of the ones that touched me the most was the part, Carmen, you may remember this being there, was the part that how people was some kind, just sometimes just the general public, to honk horns or just to gather and pray
Yes.
was one of the things I remember when I read that initially. I got to tell, I can tell you now, I had to stop for a minute and go back and redo that one. I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, I had to
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, that was pretty special and was a joy to hear. So with that, I'm going to continue to move around the Zoom room and give everyone an opportunity. Chuck, I don't know that you've had a chance to chime in, or Chris, if you should choose to also as well. But I just wanted to make sure I gave everyone an opportunity. Go ahead, Chuck.
Thanks, Eddie. I don't know if you want to hear from me. I've got dogs barking like crazy because we've got tree service that came, and there are our guard pugs, and they can be pretty ferocious. But anyway, I was also privileged to go to the Public Safety Awards last week.
Absolutely.
And what really stood out to me was how humble everyone was who'd received an award. And although it's very easy for everyone to say, hey, it's part of the job, those of us that are in the civilian workplace know better than that. When you're running into an apartment building filled with smoke and fire and you're pulling someone out, that's something special. It may be part of the job, but that doesn't mean that you have to treat it just like paperwork.
That's right.
It's something special. And yeah, with regard to COVID, I don't know that COVID, and we talk about catching the disease of human discourse and just being decent to each other. I don't know that we can blame any of that on COVID. I think that we've been in a hyper politicized society for the last dozen years or so, and everyone is looking for some reason to feel offended about something. And I think that I mean, I haven't seen an event like this since 9/11, and that just happened to trigger everyone even more. I am not an overly political person myself. I don't know that anyone in this room can tell, which way I lean one way or the other, but I see it from both sides. And you're absolutely right. I mean, getting in the way, letting the political aspects of today get in the way of people doing such an important job is probably makes it a whole lot worse than it needs to be.
You bet. You bet. A great perspective. And yes, Chuck, you saw, what Carmen and I saw the same, just the humility, just folks going up and just kind of going through it. I love what you said, though, that just because it's part of the job doesn't mean it should be just relegated to paperwork.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when we get up to go and do what we do on a regular basis, and someone else's part of the job, quote unquote, has to do with running into a structural fire. You don't even know how structurally sound it is when you run in there, and you do that because you said you would. All right, you don't get to change your mind and say, you know what, I'm taking the day off today. No, you're there, and that's what you were trained to do, and that's what you do. So pretty darn incredible. And so, listen, we could continue on. And the part that Donna mentioned, I'm so glad she was on the call as well, because she could give that perspective again from the spouse of a firefighter, and just what they go through also as well, in terms of think it's bad enough, and then you also add on top of that COVID, because just the fires themselves, that's not enough, right? And then you had to add COVID on top of it, Chief, right? So, hey, listen, I want to thank you all, each and every one of you, and I want to turn it over to our good friend and Director of Member Services, Ms. Brianna, for any announcements that you may have. I know that we are excited about hearing, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but the secret's out. There's rumors that we will be going back to live events at the chamber and so forth. So why not have a little bit of a sneak peek and info here to tell us about it?
Yeah, of course. So we are hoping to have your next customer in person next month in July. So that'll be exciting. We're also going to bring back Coffee and Connections. So you'll be hearing some more information about that over our email blasts once we finalize more of the details. So that's exciting. We do have a couple events that we're taking a break from next month, since we'll be having the Business Awards June 30th. So if you're interested in attending the Business Awards, you can certainly reach out to me. My contact information is in the chat here, and we can get you signed up. It's going to be a fun night. We're really excited for it. And I think one last thing that we have for today is a drawing. Did you still want to do that, Eddie?
Oh, absolutely. We want to make sure we do a drawing for those that took the time to visit with Chief Lohr and each other. And also, I hope that I saw the chat was getting active as well. So if you haven't already done so, please put your information in the chat also. And as Brianna brings up the names of those that were here in attendance today, we're going to give away one of those awesome toolkits from the chamber. They have become so very popular. To get one of those. And I would also like to donate from us here at LegalShield. Myself and my wife, Melissa, we want to donate a gift card to our favorite winery, The Shoe, Stonehouse Urban Winery, where we always finally say, step into the shoe. And Chief, that's a reminder also for you. You already know, absolutely, for you and Mrs. Lohr. So Brianna, I'll let you bring that on up, that cool wheel, and see who we can give these two gifts away to.
Perfect. All right. Can everyone see the wheel?
Yes, indeed. We got it.
All right. So here is our first drawing. This will be for the toolkit, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Outstanding. Outstanding. Love it. Love it. We got to get some music to go along with that thing.
Yeah.
We got to get that going. Outstanding. So that'll take care of that. We got you going. That'll be right there at the chamber, Chief, at your convenience to be able to go and get that. I'm telling you, those things are so awesome. You could build a house with it, sir. Those things are awesome.
Eddie, I'm well equipped with a triple garage full of tools. If the chamber would accept that, I would like to donate that gift back to the chamber and award it to somebody else.
Now, how did I know you were going to do that? I just tried to overtalk him right on past that, but no, I had a feeling. So spin it again, Brianna. Thank you, Chief. Watch it do it again. All right. And Shelby, hopefully she's still there. If she had to jump off, as I know she stays busy with her Dream Professional Clean, so we'll make sure to let her know. Are you there? Yes. You're the winner, Shelby.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you've got this awesome toolkit. So most definitely, and you can thank Chief Lohr for that as well, because he redonated it back. You bet. And let's spend one more time here before the top of the hour.
All right.
Yeah, is it there? Leslie, you've got a $10 gift certificate for the shoe for that the Stonehouse Urban Winery.
Now, I would actually like to do what Chief Lohr did because my husband and I don't drink.
Don't drink. I knew that was
Oh.
coming. I knew it was coming.
Make that back too.
I knew it was coming, and Chuck is looking at me like, "See, Ed told you," because he did the same thing. Let's spin it again. Let's spin it again. And Chris.
Woohoo.
Chris, will
That's
you
awesome.
accept it? Listen, you know, you're not allowed to give this back. All right, I'm just telling you, it's coming to your house.
I
If
will.
I
My
have to
wife will love
deliver
it.
it, will that be okay?
Yep, my wife will love it.
Outstanding, Chris. There we go. We got it. We got it right. Well, listen, you all, thank you everyone for being here. We can't do this without you, Chief Lohr. This was awesome, and really looking forward to it being available by Brianna for those who weren't able to check it out. And by all means, listen, let everyone know what they missed. You all let somebody know about this wonderful event today so that they can go and check it out at their leisure as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month on the third Tuesday of the month and going live right back to our house at the chamber also as well. So we'll see if we can't do something to make that a little bit more festive. Also, we'll talk about that. And listen, please keep this in your calendar for this event and support us, because we just think it's wonderful to support each other. And going back to what the chief said, Chief Kiefer said, we have to be force multipliers. I really, really like that. That's a heck of a statement there. So don't catch the disease, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just make sure that we're supporting each other the way we know how here in Hub City. Thanks all so much for all that you do. Have a blessed day. Remember that small business is absolutely big business, and we'll see you on the flip side. Take care.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Chief Lohr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much.